Well, Slate, it's the story that just keeps on giving, man. We can't get rid of this one. From the Daily Caller, there's a report that Bud Light production plants are starting to shut down due to plummeting sales. Bud Light's decision to partner with Dylan Mulvaney has been an utter disaster. In fact, it's been so bad that the beer has been priced lower than water. I've heard the figure now that they're down. The market cap is, I think, 28 to 30 billion. Production plants that work with Anheuser-Busch brand are now starting to shut down, with a glass bottle factory in Wilson, North Carolina, being forced to close its doors in the next few weeks. They'll be laying off close to 400 employees, unfortunately, and another plant associated with Bud Light in Ruston, Louisiana, is also shutting down, with 245 jobs being lost. That's 645 altogether. This thing is a total disaster, man.
Dude, you knew stuff was getting serious when the Anheuser-Busch CEO refused to answer the question yes or no. Would you, in hindsight, again, team up with a transgender activist Dylan Mulvaney? He couldn't say yes or no. $30 billion loss for the company. You know, I hate to be sort of lazy or whatever and say it's all about the money, but it's all about the money. I think I care more about Dylan Mulvaney's feelings than they do. But the good news is Charles has got a new commercial that'll bring them back to life.
Yeah, they just released another new commercial. I think this is the third one now in an effort to try to kind of save this sinking ship. This one's insane. It's featuring a lot of men grunting and a Travis Kelce from the Kansas City Chiefs. This is weird, man. Check this out.
Easy to drink. Bud Light, yeah. Of course, problem solved, bro.
Dude, the first thing I thought of is like constipation, man. Really? Dude, they didn't really think this thing through.
I know, man.
I don't know. Is it working for you?
I don't drink alcohol anymore, but I enjoy Bud Zero, if that answers your question. Oh. Yeah.
Well, that was some weird shit.
All right, man, this time it's not Hunter Biden's fault, we don't think, but cocaine was found at the White House.
The president and his family were not home at the time, having left for Camp David on Friday and came back here to the White House yesterday. According to two law enforcement officials, briefed, the bag of powder was found in a work area of the West Wing that could have been accessible to many people, including staff or visitors, even tourists. Yesterday, the Secret Service issued a statement saying...
Did you hear what he just said there? First of all, liars
We know who this is.
Okay, all right. First of all, liars always leave a clue, right? Okay, so he just said that it's open to staff. First of all, when this news story first came out, they said it wasn't in the West Wing. Now it's in the West Wing, okay? So that's lie number one, or inconsistency number one, I should say. The second lie is the fact that he said the visitors could go in there or whatever, but USA Today is reporting that members of the public who tour the White House usually are allowed to visit the East Wing in residents only. Tour member, right? Tour members are typically not permitted to visit the West Wing. So that's coming from USA Today. And CBS this morning was saying the opposite.
This is a story covering the same thing from NPR, and I just highlighted some interesting verbiage here, you know. Right here in orange, it was discovered in an area accessible to tour groups, not in any particular West Wing office. So, like, someone's being very careful. In an area accessible to tour groups does not mean an area for tour groups. It means like an area that's near where they're supposed to be, where they could theoretically get into, but they shouldn't be. So that's why I think that might have been like Hunter's little stash room, this little, recreation area.
So who's lying, them or them?
Yeah.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
So Slay, this whole cocaine in the White House incident couldn't get by without Donald Trump commenting on it. Does anybody really believe that the cocaine found in the West Wing of the White House, very close to the Oval Office, is for the use of anyone other than Hunter and Joe?
I know. Dude, love him or hate him, man. He's funny, dude. He's funny. I know, yeah.
But yeah.
It wasn't really cocaine. but common ground up aspirin. Yes, I want to snort the hell out of this aspirin tonight. Give me any bear.
And look at this last guy. I haven't even heard of this last guy. Has deranged Jack Smith, the crazy Trump-hating special prosecutor, been seen in the area of the cocaine? He looks like a crackhead to me. DJT, we miss you, bro.
Thank you very much. That's really nice. Thank you.
All right, so it looks like the Biden administration is 0 for 3, right? So things didn't go their way on affirmative action. No one's getting their student loans relieved. And now this one. Judge limits Biden administration contact with social media firms. Trelsy's got the info here.
Yeah, this is a crazy story, kind of unexpected, but it looks like the people are prevailing against the administration in terms of limiting their power they have to censor social media or direct social media to censor other people. So, a lot to go through here. Let's just get going. U.S. District Court Judge Terry Doughty issued a sweeping preliminary injunction, including the Surgeon General, the Health and Human Services Secretary, even the White House Press Secretary, and all employees of the Justice Department and FBI from having any contact with social media firms for the purpose of discouraging or removing First Amendment protected speech. This is absolutely wild, man. The judge's decision cites a wide range of topics that he says all were suppressed on social media at the urging of administration officials. This includes opposition to the poke vaccines, masking, lockdowns, and the lab leak theory, opposition to the validity of the 2020 election, opposition to Joe Biden and other officials' policies, and statements claiming that the story surrounding a laptop belonging to Biden's son, Hunter Biden, was true. These are all stories we now know are true or false, depending on the way you look at it. This targeted suppression of conservative ideas is a perfect example of viewpoint discrimination of political speech. American citizens have the right to engage in free debate about the significant issues affecting the country. The evidence produced thus far depicts an almost dystopian scenario. And the judge also pointed to past efforts to delete or suppress content from RFK Jr., which we've discussed this recently on the show too. The wording this judge uses is really much stronger than I think a lot of people expected.
I agree, man. I'm sort of surprised by this because I remember in early 2020, you and I had so many arguments on the phone. And if you were sort of on the conservative side of what happened in the beginning of 2020, and everyone knows what I'm talking about, you were canceled or labeled a conspiracy theorist or just a straight up wacko, man. And it looks like that all is sort of reversing itself in this ruling.
Yeah, this is landmark stuff. This is a comment from Clay Travis on Twitter. He said, Joe Biden's federal government engaged in the most direct attack on the First Amendment in U.S. history through social media censorship. This is one of the most important district court opinions ever written. And this is hilarious. Of course, the New York Times has a different take. Breaking news, a judge limited Biden administration officials from contacting social media sites, a ruling that could curtail efforts to fight disinformation. And of course, in the New York Times view, anything they don't agree with is disinformation.
So Charlemagne the God sort of made headlines the other day when he sat down with Republican candidate for president Vivek Ramaswamy, basically saying that white supremacy is the cause for America's failing. What's sort of ironic about this story is that Charlemagne the God is a black man who is a very successful person. He owns a podcast company. He has a #1 rated show in the morning called The Breakfast Club, who sort of benefited from the American capitalistic system where people can sort of live out the American dream, right?
Right.
You know, according to Wikipedia, he's kind of got a nefarious past, but he's doing A-okay these days. Not that struggle can be quantified because everyone deals with adversity. My father was an alcoholic. My wife died of cancer a couple of years ago. My mother-in-law is bipolar. So basically what I'm trying to say is that there are worse places to live. I'll cue up Dave Portnoy, El Prez here.
So much division right now in this country. Oh, this country sucks. We don't do this right. We don't do that right. These people don't have these rights, this, that. It's nonstop. Well, let me tell you something. I don't care. Yeah, we're not perfect. Anybody who doesn't think the United States is still the best, most progressive, best place to live in the world is a fucking moron. If you think there's a better country to live in, go live in it. I'm not telling you that you can't complain or try to make changes. That's America. That's the beauty of America. You can say whatever you want. But the people like, oh, this country, it sucks. Like, you take Brittany Griner. She fucking hated America. Then what happens? She's throwing the fucking gulag in Russia for having a vape. Doesn't happen here. People are so quick to say, oh, this country sucks, this, that. It is the best fucking country in the world, period. Go find me a better one. You won't. You can't. You won't. So I don't care if you like this country, whether you trash this country, just shut up on the 4th of July and thank God you live here. Is it perfect? No. Is it the best country in the world? By a fucking mile.
Happy 4th of July from El Presidente, everybody.
So, Slay, with this recent Supreme Court decision with the affirmative action thing with Harvard, and I think it was also North Carolina, college admissions, there's been a lot of back and forth on Twitter between the left and the right, and I've seen a lot of comments along the lines of, conservatives are out of step with Americans and all that usual BS. It's just not true at all. This is from ABC News, which is a left-leaning source. Most Americans approve of Supreme Court decision restricting use of race in college admissions. This is a poll. I believe this is conducted by ABC News Ipsos. On Thursday, the Supreme Court set new limits on affirmative action programs in cases involving whether public and private colleges and universities could continue to use race as a factor in admissions. 52% of Americans approve of the U.S. Supreme Court decision. That is a majority of Americans. A majority of Republicans, 75%, and independents, 58%, approve of the ruling, while a distinct minority of Democrats approve, 26%. So I just want to share this with people. If you're faced with someone from the left who is hammering you with that talking point of you're in the minority, most people don't think like this. Actually, you're in the majority. Don't give in to that argument. Don't let people take charge of the argument when they say things like that to you. Most people agree with this SCOTUS decision. The proof is right there in the poll. Also, here's a quick look at the poll, and the question was, do you approve or disapprove of the recent decision, all three of the major decisions? So, do people approve of restricting the use of race as a factor in college admissions? 52%, yes. Striking down the Biden administration's student loan forgiveness program, 45% yes, 40 against, majority. And then this third one, that a website designer can deny services to same-sex customers seeking a wedding website, 43% yes, 42% disapprove. So on all three of these decisions, the Supreme Court's ruling was in the majority of Americans' opinion and favor.
To be honest with you, man, I really thought, I'm kind of surprised by this. I thought that the polls would be more lopsided the other way. I saw the Hillary Clinton tweet saying, all these conservative judges ruling conservatively, and they're going to ruin all the progress we've made. So this is interesting stuff, dude. So another disturbing mass shooting here in the United States, and this one happened over the 4th of July weekends, and here we go, right? Left versus right in terms of media and the wars. I want to share this article from Vice News. It says the far right is already using the Philadelphia shooting to smear trans people.
Really?
So what we know so far about the alleged shooter is that he's a 40-year-old guy who likes to dress up in women's clothes, according to his Facebook page. Is he trans? We don't know. One can only assume. The way the article reads on Vice.com is the suspect is a 40-year-old IT professional who lives in the neighborhood. On his now deleted Facebook page, reviewed by Vice News, he posted repeatedly about his Second Amendment rights, his pro-gun stance, his support for former President Donald Trump, and his disdain for President Joe Biden.
It's like clockwork, man. How many days do you think we have to wait till we find out that's not true?
So whether it is true or it isn't, it's sort of the media going back and forth, left versus right. The leftist media outlet Vice News is saying, let's stop, smearing all trans people. In actuality, he's a Trump supporter and a pro-Second Amendment right person. Members of the far right also jumped on a single image of a clenched fist on the suspect's Facebook page to claim the suspect has been identified as trans and a BLM activist, even though there's no evidence beyond the single picture to suggest they were an activist.
So they're so sure that these people they're talking about jumping on the single image are members of the far right, yet provide no evidence, but they're absolutely sure that this person isn't a trans BLM activist. The bias is inherent and apparent.
Precisely. And the war continues between the left and the right media companies. Some Americans even think that the identity of mass shooters should never be revealed via the internet or mass media in general to prevent contagion-like instances. Let us know what you guys think. Just leave your comments below. And if you like what you see on Yakcast, make sure you subscribe and smash that like button. I mean, it's pretty close.
I wanted to make it sound like it wasn't.
Yeah, I get like it's fucking 90-10, fucking 43 to 42. You know, I thought it'd be a little closer. I mean, it really can't get any closer, but I thought it'd be closer.